الحمد لله الحمد لله.
السلام عليكم.
عليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
أهلا أستاذنا، عساكم بخير، حياكم الله.
مرحبا مرحبا.
حياكم الله، مرحبا بكم، أسعد الله صباحكم. أعرف أنها يعني قرابة ما زالت فجرا لديكم يعني.
نعم نعم
قواكم
نعم.
الله بكل خير.
دكتور آدم،
حياكم الله. حياكم
السلام
الله.
عليكم، كيف حالك؟
الحمد لله، بارك الله بكم، حياكم الله.
الحمد لله. بقي
يعني إن شاء الله خلال دقيقة أو دقيقتين بإذن الله.
دقيقة واحدة عن أذان الفجر.
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله ما شاء الله.
نعم نعم.
تقبل الله منك.
دكتور حبيب خرزين، كيف حالك؟
أهلا وسهلا.
ما شاء الله ما شاء الله.
الله يكرمكم.
Very happy to see you.
How are you? Hi.
الحمد لله الحمد لله.
How's Jordan? It's okay.
It's okay. الحمد لله رب العالمين. How's everything with you?
الحمد لله.
الحمد لله.
خير.
تمام تمام.
نبدأ أستاذنا على بركة الله.
على بركة الله. هل الشاشة اللوحات
نعم
واضحة على الشاشة؟ واضحة.
نعم نعم العرض ظاهر.
الحمد لله.
طيب. طيب. بسم الله، الحمد لله، والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله، وبعد. Esteemed speakers, respected guests, dear in IIUM community, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. On behalf of the organizer, we would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. On the second day of our international conference on the integration of knowledge in higher education. Before we begin, let us start this session with the recitation of Surah Al-Fatiha.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in ihdinas siratal mustaqim siratal ladzina ghayril maghdubi 'alayhim waladdallin.
Ameen ya Rabbal Alameen. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to express my gratitude for your presence with us for the speech of the distinguished speaker, Associate Professor Dr. Fathi Hasan Malkawi. Dr. Malkawi is a Jordanian-born educator who obtained his Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and Geology from Damascus University in 1966. Advanced Diploma in Science Education from Reading University, UK in 1972. Master of Science in Education Psychology from the University of Jordan in 1978, and PhD in Science Education and Philosophy of Science from Michigan State University USA in 1984. He served for 12 years at the Ministry of Education in Jordan as curriculum developer and instructor in teacher education institutes. He then served for another 12 years as assistant and associate professor at Yarmouk University in Jordan. He then moved to the USA to serve as executive director of the International Institute of Islamic Thought, IIIT, for 10 years. He is currently a senior researcher at IIIT. He published 40 school and university books and more than 60 research papers in science education, research methodology, and Islamic thought. He has been a visiting professor and lecturer at universities in many countries in Europe, Asia, Africa, and North America. Among his latest books, Epistemological Integration, Essentials of Islamic Methodology, Mapping Intellectual Building and the Construction of Thought, Worldview, Presence, and Practices in Thought, Knowledge, and Education, and 3 volumes in Islamic Educational Thought and Heritage. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the pleasure to invite Professor Dr. Fathi Malkawi to deliver his speech entitled, Where Are We on IOK? The Recent, Past, and the Near Future. Prof. Malkawi, the platform is yours, please. Thank you.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Thank you very much, Dr. Adham Hamwiya, and thanks also for all the organizers in IIUM. I'm glad to be part of this conference. I hope all the participants will make the best of the presentations in different sessions. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. Oh Allah, teach us what will benefit us. Oh Allah, benefit us with what you teach us. Oh Allah, increase us in knowledge. Ameen. The title of this presentation, Where Are We on IOK? I use this acronym IOK in which in different ways that I will explain later. But if we are talking about where are we, it might mean that we are where are we now, but in fact the title will mean the past, the present, and the future at the same time. If we consider the present, of course we have to start with the present. Where are we now? This present is the actual needs, influences, challenges, but this present is the product of the history. So we have to think about history. We have to go back to the history to see that the history, in fact, is accumulation of experiences in which we might find something good which we forgot, or mistakes that we can avoid now, or even positions that we overlooked and we can make up for it. So the immediate past is very important because the present is the product of this immediate past. But the important thing is to think of the present in order to move ahead to the future. What is left of our journey? The future should be built on available experiences, but also to create new opportunities and advance into new frontiers. So we can see that history and timeline is building blocks. It is not a continuation of moments of time. It's also building blocks. One over the other, experiences are accumulated over each other, and in each position and time, in each moment of time, we find that we have new conditions that we should deal with, build on the past and looking forward to the future. But the future, the present, and the past is a timeline. The timeline have this continuum from the distant past, the recent past, the present, the near future, and the far future. A Muslim looks at the timeline of mankind in its entirety. Of course, the beginning of the time we don't know, but we are considering the time of a human being, from the first human being, creation of a human being, until the end of the world, until the end of this life. But the distant life is something we are not responsible for it, but the recent part might be the product of the future, of the present, so we are in some sense responsible for it. We have to think about it. The present, it's in itself, in the timeline, is just a moment. It might not be very important when we consider the recent past and the near future. But the recent part is what we brought us to this present. That's why it is important to deal with. And the future is what we strive for. We are looking for to change the present into that future. So this timeline is very important in the thinking of Muslims in any moment of time. But why okay for Muslim Ummah? Islamic civilization have flourished for centuries, but unfortunately it was followed by centuries of Muslim decline, caused literacy, ignorance, and superstition. This also caused average Muslim to withdraw to the bliss of blind faith, literalism, and dogmatism. Parallel to this decline was the advancement of Europe, based on knowledge, science, industry, and using critical mindedness, liberalism, and rationalism. This kind of parallel situation between Muslim Ummah and Europe of this time has created a deficit in knowledge and gap in civilization. So why okay for Muslim Ummah is to have a reform, a renewal intellectual project to deal with this knowledge deficit and civilizational gap. That's my introduction to the presentation, but the presentation itself has three parts aligned with the three immediate categories of the timeline: the present, the recent past, and the near future. At the present, of course, we have to start with the present. At the present, we have educational experiences in integration of knowledge. For example, International Islamic University in Malaysia, IIUM. We have in our world in Muslim Ummah now many colleges, institutions, research centers. We have programs, courses, textbooks, and research papers. But at the same time, in the non-Muslim countries, in Europe, in the United States, we have hundreds of religious universities in USA and Europe. If you Google, for example, Catholic universities in the US, you will find a list of more than 253 universities. They are religious colleges, especially Catholic religious universities. The same thing you can find in other religious denominations also. At the same time, you will have, if you Google research experiences about integration of knowledge, you will find hundreds of research papers and internet sites related to integration of religious thought into higher education. So it is not the interest of Muslim Ummah also, it is the interest of all nations now and every time. Efforts of triple IT and on integration. We have textbooks. For example, this is a book that I have written, Methodology of Integration of Knowledge, Essentials of Islamic Methodology. We have conferences. Triple IT has organized one of these conferences titled Integration of Knowledge, Impact on Higher Education and Civilizational Importance. The conference was held in Algiers, and the book, the proceedings of the conference was published in 2012. We have dissertations that Triple IT has published, and some of the dissertation also have supported. One of these dissertation was done at the IIUM, Islamization of Knowledge, Implication for University Programs at IIUM. We have so many training courses now, lectures, university courses, university programs, even institutions. The latest institution was established, IKI, in Georgia, also supported by Triple IT. IOK, integration of knowledge, have so many meanings at the present, but it's all about human knowledge. For example, encyclopedic knowledge. Muslim scholars in the past, and even non-Muslim scholars in Europe and various places, used to have encyclopedic knowledge, because the size of human knowledge was the ability of the scholar might be was in a size that he can accomplish many disciplines of knowledge. Ibn Rushd, for example, Al-Kindi in Muslim history, many others in European history also have this kind of encyclopedic knowledge. One of the ideas of integration is to have encyclopedic knowledge. Sciences need each other. For example, medicine need biology, education needs psychology, التفسير, the Quranic tafsir needs so many other disciplines like language, like fiqh, etc. Dualities integration, the seen and the unseen, the dunya and akhirah, so on. Terms in modern sciences, integration systems in physics, in administration, in engineering, in IT, in calculus, interdisciplinarity, integrated curriculum in education, and even in literary criticism, supplication and complication, integration among nations, integration among generations of one nation. These are various meanings and semantics of integration of knowledge. But what we are talking about in this presentation is something else. That the integration that I'm talking about might encompass all these meanings, but it adds much more. So integration of knowledge is acronym of Islamization of knowledge, happily, it's also the same acronym of integration of knowledge. Each of them, Islamization of knowledge and integration of knowledge, each of them has its own focus and relevance. Both are related to each other. Both became mottos of the International Institute of Islamic Thought. What about Islamization of knowledge? It was developed as a terminology, became a watchword, a buzzword. When it was developed, it has been termed and phrased to entice and stimulate the Muslim mind. It became a motto of cultural and intellectual reforms to lead to other reforms. Reforms in politics, in economics, in all areas are very important. But the way to do all these reforms would start with intellectual and cultural reforms. The concept of Islamization of knowledge has faced criticism from within Islamic circles and from outside also. Islamization of knowledge became a title, a motto on the contemporary Islamic intellectual reform project. Some institutions have used other titles, other logos, other mottos to denote the same concept, because they criticize the idea of Islamization of knowledge, or the terminology, in fact, not the idea, the terminology of Islamization of knowledge. What's the relationship between integration of knowledge and Islamization of knowledge? Integration did not, this is important, I would make some emphasis on it. Integration did not come to substitute Islamization as a reaction to the criticism. No, integration is a description of the modus operandi of Muslim mind as it should be, the description of the methodology of the Muslim mind in doing things. It is a methodology. Methodology is the science of methods by which to acquire knowledge from sources by means for purposes. So integration is a methodology and it is a process. We mentioned one of the meanings of integration was interdisciplinarity, but even interdisciplinarity is not one thing, is not one idea. It has so many different terms and concepts. We can look at IOK, integration of knowledge, in any of these different meanings. Pre-disciplinary, intradisciplinary, multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary, and so on. So where is IOK in any of these? This is something that could be part of certain research to be done. There are so many literature work on interdisciplinarity. There are encyclopedia in interdisciplinarity, encyclopedia of religion and science, for example. Of course, when we say religion and science, we talk about integration between religion and science. And interdisciplinarity is one way to look at the one type, at least, or some kind of integration. We have Oxford Handbook of Disciplinarity. When we look at any of these references, which are large and big references, we will find the concept of integration is essential and one of the basic focus in interdisciplinarity in this literature. So, can we define integration of knowledge. How can we define it? My definition is this. Integration is a methodology of using different sources and means of knowledge. It's a process to combine ideas, build connections, and develop cohesive, meaningful structure of knowledge about an issue or a phenomenon. But the idea of integration, the concept of integration would always bring the concept of unity also of knowledge. So what's the relation between integration and unity of knowledge? The two terms belong to the same semantic field, affirming one does not deny the other. Both are important, each in its relevant context. Using one or the other is a matter of context. Unity, this is the relationship. Unity is about relationship at the ontological level, theoretical concepts. Integration is about relationship at the epistemological level, practical and educational. But in general, unity of knowledge is the foundation of its integration. Okay, at the present, we have this epistemological integration model which I developed in my book. The integration between means and sources. The integration between sources, revelation and the creation. The creation in the Quranic terms, Rabbul Alameen, Al-Alamun, all the words, the created words. We have two sources, only two sources from which we can derive knowledge, either revelation or creation. But how we acquire knowledge from these sources? We have means. We have two means, only two means. Reason, al-aql, and senses, al-hawas. And they are integrated. We cannot use one without the other at all. So they are integrated. But in order to acquire knowledge using reason and senses, we apply them to revelation and creation at the same time. And in order to acquire knowledge from these sources by reason and senses, we have to use both of them, reason and senses, in applying them to acquire knowledge from revelation and creation. So this model of epistemological integration is the one that I have developed in this book, which perhaps many of you have at least considered for reading in this conference. Epistemological Integration, Essentials of Islamic Methodology. Why human acquire knowledge? Human acquire knowledge from sources, by means, for purposes. What are the purposes? Higher maqasid and values. What are the higher maqasid and values? At-Tawheed, At-Tazkiyah, and Umran. And you can see how also these higher maqasid and values are also integrated. Integration in sources and means for purposes. Sources and means are integrated in this model, but they are integrated in order to achieve purposes of Tawheed, Tazkiyah, and Umran. So integration is the heart of Islamic maqasid. The need for integration of knowledge is inherent in its meaning. It's not something intrusion. It is not intrusion in a human understanding about the truth. Rather, it is the result of contemplation on nature and facts, الطبائع والوقائع of things, nature and facts about things, whether physical, social entities, or even the psyche of mankind. The Quranic text help us in a clear and decisive way in explaining the necessity of integration of sources and means. When we try to identify the verses of the Quran by the way of induction, when collecting all verses of the Quran, we will find that all these ayat will refer to physical laws, social laws, psychological laws in an integrated way. So the same ayah would deal with a physical law and social law at the same time, or social law and psychological law at the same time. So integration in the Quran is something basic, and reading the Quran need to consider this kind of integration. Integration in the sources and integration in the means, using the senses and the contemplation of mind. Also, Islamic heritage is full of references on integration. They call it Allah's word, God words, and God work, God revelation and God creation. طيب. Or the written book and the visible book. الكتاب المشهود الكتاب والكتاب المنشود. Ibn al-Qayyim, for example, would be a good reference on this. The wording of contradictions, درء التناقض in terms of Ibn Taymiyyah, or فصل المقال of Ibn Rushd, the judging between the relationship of philosophy and religion. So also Islamic heritage is full of references to this kind of different kind of integration. Now we need to move to a little bit glimpses of the past. Identification of where we were in the worldview that influenced what we did in the past or we did not do. This means that we take into consideration when we look at the past three integrated elements: the ontology, epistemology, and the methodology. Okay, Islamic intellectual project start with, of course, ontology, the worldview. The worldview, usually in all meanings of worldview in different contexts, the worldview is the answer of several questions. Sometimes literature will cite 7 questions, 9 questions, 5 questions. I will consider 5 questions here. 4 of them, I will deal them in some details. Whether there is a creator or not. If there is a creator, he has created the creation. One of the creation is mankind as vicegerent and trustee on the other creations. Most important quality of mankind is epistemology, theory of knowledge. Of course, the other 3 I won't here deal with are, for example, dunya and akhirah, haya and maut, history, etc. Okay, so epistemology or theory of knowledge is about knowledge. Okay, knowledge, the best thing, the most important thing in knowledge in the integration of knowledge. Integration of knowledge in the Islamic worldview is a frame of reference to Islamic methodology. What is the Islamic methodology? It's a process of dealing with text, Islamic text, Quran and Sunnah, Islamic heritage, contemporary human experiences, all types of knowledge, and dealing with realities of life, of world, as they are at the present time, or as it should be in the future. the two integrated readings, reading the creation and reading the revelation, and they are both integrated. The creation is the Al-Kitab al-Manzur or Al-Mashhud, the observed book, the book of the word. The revelation is the Al-Kitab al-Mastur, the revealed book, the book of the word. The observed word we read through looking, observing, contemplation on what Allah Almighty has created. Al-Kitab al-Mastur, Al-Kitab al-Mastur, the revealed word, we understand, contemplate of what Allah has revealed in the book. So these are two books, the word and the word, and they are integrated. But the human knowledge has various borders. In the past, we considered the ilm, the ma'rifah, and the irfan, and we still consider the differences between these three realms or meanings or categories of knowledge: ilm, ma'rifah, and irfan. Ilm, it's not easy to translate it because knowledge in English does not connect ilm in Arabic. Ilm in the Islamic understanding has the various meanings: ilm of the divine, ilm Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ilm of the angels, ilm of the prophets, of a human being, and even ilm of other creatures which we don't know about. For example, a human being might train some animals to have acquired experiences. We call them sometimes insects. But the irfan is the given ilm, the wahab, the kashf, al-mujahada. The knowledge in terms of the meaning in English is something part of the ilm in the Quran. Irfan is part of knowledge, and the irfan is part of ilm also. The ilm has some direct links to knowledge, but the irfan has partially some kind of links to knowledge, because we don't exactly, because of the personal experience of this irfan. It's not like knowledge that we can test and measure. So we are dealing in integration of human knowledge. We are dealing with knowledge, not with the ilm in general, and not with the irfan. Integration of knowledge could be integration of one discipline of knowledge, or one category of disciplines, or even one or several categories of disciplines. This is the nature of human perception. Part of the past that we need to look at, the immediate past, is the efforts of IIIT. I will move quickly about this IIIT, because many of you have some kind of information about IIIT, vision of IIIT, mission of IIIT, pioneers of IIIT who have passed away: Ismail Farouqi, Taha Jabir Alwani, Abdulhamid Abu Sulaiman, and Jamal Barzanji, and the other pioneers who are still living, and may Allah make barakah in their life and their work and their knowledge: Hisham al-Talib, Ahmed Tutunji, and Anwar Ibrahim. IIIT in South Asia is something of the immediate past. For example, first President Al-Farouqi has built up a relationship with Prime Minister Mahathir during his early years in the government as an advisor on the Islamization of knowledge. This is a citation of Muna Al-Baza in her book Debates on Islam and Knowledge in Malaysia and Egypt. Sorry for this. Al-Faruqi has mediated the relationship between Mahathir and Anwar Ibrahim to join the effort toward Islamic progress in Malaysia. This also was mentioned in a book, in an article published in the Revelation and Science, published by IIUM, and the title of the paper was The Role of Al-Faruqi. Okay. Triple IT, the second president of IIUM, President Dr. Abdulhamid Abu Sulaiman, has served as rector of IIUM and mobilized Triple IT intellectual sources, established the integration process at Kulliya of Islamic Revealed Knowledge and Human Sciences, presented the idea of integrated diversity, develop a map of academic and social life in the university campus. The third director of IIUM, Professor Muhammad Kamal Hasan, has noted the impact of Triple IT office at IIUM in reinforcing integration of knowledge in the campus in the following aspects: impacts of books, journals, and conferences organized by Triple IT, impact of international scholars visited IIUM under the sponsorship of Triple IT. Triple IT activities have generated awareness of a new paradigm shift among the staff and students of Triple IT. Of course, this was mentioned in a paper written by Professor Muhammad Kamal Hasan and published in the book IIUM at 25 year, the path traveled and the way forward. Okay, now the future. Moving ahead toward the near future, there are 5 legitimate questions to consider in thinking about the future of integration of knowledge. First, what does it mean to use IOK, integration of knowledge methodology, at higher education level in teaching and research? Second question, how do we describe the degree of maturity in the experience of integration of knowledge in higher education? Third question, what kind of qualification or training needed for a university professor to use integration of knowledge methodology? The fourth question, what impacts on teaching Islamic Sharia and social sciences at the same college by different professors? There's an experience in IIUM about this, but we need to evaluate this kind of experience. The fifth question, what is the relationship of the state of integration of knowledge of the university professor and the student, university student? There are also 5 obstacles to consider to achieving integration of knowledge. First one, contemporary education system do not provide programs to gain experience and training integration issues. Second problem, lack of appropriate practical experiences and training in doing integration. Scarcity of appropriate examples of integration of knowledge work in teaching and research, and the difficulty of making analysis of these examples. Fourth, added effort required for integration leads professor to focus on research and teaching needed for promotion. it's not easy, it's difficult. So they go to the easier thing. The fifth problem, false assumptions, misuse, and misrepresentation of the structure of integration of knowledge. And this is an important problem that we need to consider and deal with, because many of the work done under integration of knowledge was considered as misuse and misrepresentation. Okay, now there are also 5 strategic questions to deal in order to think about the future. The first strategic question, what are the strategies and incentives necessary to teach using integration of knowledge experiences in university education? Who are qualified to use IOK, integration of knowledge methodology, in teaching their own specialization? When will the necessary amount of integration of knowledge experiences be gained to become mainstream? 1 generation, 2 generations, 3 generations? Where does individual creativity, teaching teams, and individual culture and institutional culture fall in gaining integration of knowledge experiences? Fifth, how do we evaluate what has been achieved of integration of knowledge experiences? How to construct appropriate tests for evaluation? This is the focus of all answers to these different obstacles and questions. Moving ahead from much talking about integration of knowledge to more of doing integration of knowledge in higher education. Most needed and urgent. This is the last one. A manual of IOK for teaching and for research. The main purpose is to move from talking about IOK to doing IOK. 5 suggested sections of this annual manual. First one, survey of IOK literature, classified into books, dissertations, periodicals, conferences, general articles. Second, presenting theoretical framework, importance of integration, components, theory of knowledge, unity integration, semantics of integration, presence of integration in Quran, in Sunnah, in heritage, and in contemporary human experiences, and obstacles. Third section, identifying example and experiences in teaching strategies and research used IOK from various disciplines. Examples from various disciplines. Analysis of examples and experiences. Not just presenting the examples, but the analysis of these examples to and make some kind of discussion to clear up the misunderstanding and to show that these examples are real examples of the real integration that we need. Then the fifth is suggesting projects for teaching and for research in doing integration of knowledge. And this project might be supported with the needed support from IIIT or any other institutions interested in developing the development of integration of knowledge. This is the end. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. I think I took only 44 minutes, right?
نعم ما شاء الله ما شاء الله بدقة الوقت ما شاء الله بارك الله بكم جزاكم الله كل خير شكرا لكم Thank you, Prof. Malkawi, for sharing your accurate and fruitful speech. جزاكم الله كل خير. بارك الله بكم. Ladies and gentlemen, now it pleases me to open the floor for your question. Actually, we have around 10 minutes remaining, so maybe we can have some questions. Please, you are welcome.
Can you allow me, Dr. Adam?
Of course. Our Prof. Dr. Dawood, welcome.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. شكرا لأستاذنا الأستاذ دكتور فتحي ملكاوي على هذه المحاضرة والتي تناولت العديد. I think he has shown us the mainstream and the road and in the past, present and future. However, I think we need at the moment everybody, particularly in our university, IIUM, because it's the leading university in this concept of integration. Because nowadays we hear different conceptualization of integration of knowledge, which might take us away and divert us from the real concept of integration between revealed knowledge and acquired knowledge. So I think I would call upon ourselves, particularly in IIUM, to show our case of integration. Every one of us has his own way of thinking about integration. And we need now to go down, as Prof. Fathi said, to actions, to doing things in the field. So those who are doing research or doing writing books or teaching or assessing student achievement need to start from this founding concept, the integration of knowledge. May Allah bless our brother, and we hope that we can collaborate with IIIT to materialize the mission of our university and IIIT, inshallah, in the future. جزاكم الله خيرا.
جزاكم الله خيرا, Prof. Dawood. بارك الله بكم.
Thank you, Dr. Dawood. Thank you.
Allah يبارك فيك.
بارك الله بكم. Also, any other questions, please? طيب خيرا إن شاء الله. أظن يعني الحضور ليس لديهم أي سؤال.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
تفضل. وعليكم السلام.
أنا محمد يوسف من سريلانكا، حاليا أحاضر دكتوراه في إستاك. لدي عندي سؤال. هل هناك أي فرق بين فكرة إمام بديع زمان سعيد نورسي في تأسيس مدرسة الزهراء والتكامل المعرفي؟
سأعيد السؤال.
كان لدى إمام بديع الزمان سعيد نورسي تأسيس مدرسة الزهراء. حينما قرأت أنا فهمت أنها يعني إسلامية المعرفة، ولكن حينما سمعت محاضرة الأستاذ هناك يعني تشابه التكامل العلمي مع فكرته. هل هناك فرق أم هذا شيء وفكرته شيء آخر؟
تمام.
Okay. Can I respond to this question?
بالتأكيد أستاذنا، تفضل.
طيب. Yes, brother. I was requested to put some emphasis on the impact of IIIT about integration of knowledge. That's why I did not mention the works and the efforts that been done by many scholars and many institutions. It's not something that IIIT has created. It is something that IIIT has developed and adopted. So many scholars in the Muslim world have developed some ideas and made some experiences in the development of this kind of integration. It is not something new. It's, as I mentioned, it's the nature of the human perception, not even the Muslim perception. It's the human perception usually is integrated by nature. It's not intrusion in the human perception. So definitely all those who have scholars and ulama who have tried to make some reform in Islamic thought or some renewal in Islamic thinking have some impact on the way of integration. Now, because at every time we entice the present Muslim mind to something to deal with the present challenges. So sometimes the slogans, the mottos might be new, but the concepts are not new. So integration, for example, if it is a word, a new word to denote a certain way of thinking or doing things, it is not a new, but the term might be a new, which so Badi' al-Zaman was one of those scholars who adopted the idea of doing some kind of reform in the Muslim mind using the present scientific mentality of the West and added it to the Islamic mentality of depending on revelation and on the text, Islamic text, Quran and Sunnah, because we cannot understand Quran and Sunnah now without understanding the themes, the ideas, the things, the issues that the Quran and the Sunnah is talking about. If we are talking, for example, about trees in the Quran, what are the trees now? What are our knowledge about trees? What are our human knowledge about astronomy, for example? Our contemporary knowledge is much more than the knowledge which was available at the time of Kindi or at the time of Galileo. So that's why in understanding Islamic verses, Quranic verses, we need to understand the things and to acquire the knowledge related to these things. So Badi' al-Zaman has talked about this, and we consider this as a way of integration.
Jazakumullah. Thank you. Also, do we have any other questions to our Prof? لدينا هنا Sister صالحة.
Yes. Ya, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yeah, Prof. Fathi, Alhamdulillah, I am the one who always follow your lecture and read your book. Alhamdulillah, that as far as I know that Islamization and integration of knowledge always emphasize on acquire knowledge and how we integrate or use this integration of knowledge in Islamic study field. Can we apply in this field Islamic study that emphasize that the revelation knowledge? So how we can use this one to integrate contemporary issue, something like that? Can you explain this issue more? Jazakallahu khairan.
Sister Saliha, are you talking about the youth, the young people?
I mean that in the field of teaching Islamic study in the present world, that how we use integration approach in Islamic teaching Islamic study.
Okay. Okay. Islamic studies, integration in Islamic studies. Is that the question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Now, I think it is much easier to think about integration in Islamic sciences, but our focus is the integration between Islamic sciences and natural sciences and social sciences, etc. So, I think Muslim scholars have identified this need to the integration between fiqh and the laws of doing fiqh, which is usul al-fiqh, tafsir and language to understand the meaning of the ayat, tafsir and the meaning of ahkam al-fiqh, which is in these ayat. So the integration of various aspects of or various disciplines of Islamic knowledge is very important and very well understood. But unfortunately, at the university level, we have some problems. For example, much of education on tafsir does not develop mufassirin. Much of education in universities on fiqh does not produce fuqaha. Much of, you see the idea, we need now to make this integration to have ulama specialized in each discipline, in each different discipline, while also acquired all required knowledges or required knowledge of other disciplines in order to have alim on Sharia. Of course, we also need to consider the collective work of ulama. So not among also Islamic fields, fiqh, tafsir, hadith, and aqidah, and so on, but also these Muslim scholars in these fields, beside the scholars of other fields of knowledge that are related to the issues which we need to make fatwa about them. So I think IIUM has done a good job and still doing, inshallah, but I think we need much more to think about how to produce and train the alim to be able to be a alim of Sharia and at the same time be able to make fatwa and understand and cooperate with other ulama to find out the proper ruling and the proper hukum of the question in hand. Wallahu a'lam.
شكرا لكم جزاكم الله كل خير. I think Prof Dawood again. Prof Dawood.
Just one thing I want to add to what Prof Fathi just mentioned is that Islam or revelation came to organize our life. So the most important aspect of integrating Islamic studies is by relating to life issues. And life issues could be economic, could be social, could be psychological, so family problems. So that's what we have to do, is to relate Islam to people's life. By doing so, we are integrating all different disciplines, because problems-based issues have to be taken into account when we integrate Islamic studies with people's life. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakumullah khair. Barakallah. I'm sorry to tell you that the time is catching us. So by this last comment from our dear Prof Dawood Al-Hidabi, I would like you all, dear all, to allow me to close this session with the recitation of تسبيح الكفارة عن سورة العصر.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.
شكرا لكم أستاذ، بارك الله بكم، جزاكم الله كل خير. بارك الله بكم.
حياك الله. السلام عليكم.
طابت أوقاتكم، نلقاكم على خير بإذن الله في مرات قادمة.
حياكم.
السلام عليكم، جزاكم الله. مع السلامة، حياكم الله.
السلام عليكم.
Thank you all. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Thank you, Dr. Adam. Now I pass the floor to Dr. Aino, Prof. Aino, sorry.
Right. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. So now we're going to go to the plenary 4. Yeah, and plenary 4, I have a task to be the moderator. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome all participants, but also to do an introduction to our next plenary, Professor Dr. Abdelaziz Berghout. Prof. Berghout is not just a professor at the Islamic Studies and Civilization at the Kuliah of IRKHS, IIUM, but also the Dean of ISTEC, or the International Institute of Islamic Thought and Civilization. It is a pleasure for me to introduce Prof. Berghout, who is very well known for his works, and among others, some of his works that involve books, methods of preaching in a multi-religious and multicultural society, and the Islamic worldview of Tajdeed, a civilization approach, and IIM. Prof. Berghout is a recipient of a number of awards at the IIM level, Malaysian level, as well as international level. For example, in IIM, he was the exemplary Murabbi for the IRKHS in 2021, and an outstanding researcher award also at the Kuliah level, and a best lecturer award as well. At the international level, in 2019, Prof. Berghout received an award for the best scholar and contributor to the development of Islamic world, the International Moderation Forum. Okay, I think if I were to read the list of all your works, Prof. Berghout, it will take your time, and I think your time is very precious. We are all very eager to listen to your talk on the integrated Islamic education framework. So without further ado, I would like to pass the screen to Prof. Berghout.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. Prof. Ainul and all our brothers and sisters, the researchers, the scholars, the students, the participant from Malaysia here and elsewhere in the world. Sabahul Khair if you are in the morning, and Masaul Khair and Layla Saida if you are somewhere else. First of all, let me thank the Kuliah of Education, the Dean of the Kuliah of Education, for this invitation, and for having this kind of a very important seminar, in conference, in a very important topic and time. This topic of integration of knowledge is not only important to us here in the university or in Malaysia, but I think everywhere in the world, even in the West, there is a kind of intensification, discussions and practices on the idea of what we call integration of knowledge. And we have just heard from Prof. Fathi Malkawi, a very beautiful, concise kind of a presentation, which put us in the context of IIUM and IIIT and the importance of this. I think Prof. Fathi is a well-known scholar, and I can say that he is a very leading authority when it comes to integration of knowledge within the framework of Islamization and the renewal of Islamic thought and civilization. So I think Prof. Fathi made my maybe task much more easier. And I will try just to give some observations on the topic of Islamic integrated Islamic education framework. But I would like to start with giving you some comments to put what we are trying to do in this integration in a context. Prof. Ainul, I could not, maybe if they can allow me to present something on the screen. I try to share something.
Okay.
Maybe they can just allow me to share. Okay, anyway, before
Yes,
that,
you can share that.
Can?
Yes, I think now you can. Inshallah, now you can.
Host disabled participant screen sharing. Still, I have the same notice coming out. Host disabled participant screen sharing. Maybe because I'm not in the maybe co-host.
Yeah, I already allow you.
Okay, now okay. Thank you very much, brother. So I would like also, before I start, to thank the collaboration between the Kulliyah of Education and IMU, the International Institute for Muslim Unity, on this very important topic. So I was asked to talk about the integrated Islamic education framework. From the title, it looks that it combines between certain theoretical perspective and maybe some practical things, inshallah. So brothers and sisters, integration of knowledge. So maybe one of the some of the questions that I would like to answer here, what is integration of knowledge in higher education, as we are talking about higher education today, and how integration of knowledge becomes part and parcel of the processes of higher education today. And we, let's say, as IIUM, we are a higher education institution which is leading the idea of Islamization, integration of knowledge. And if you remember the first presentation, keynote address of the Rector, I think he nicely put us in the context of how integration to be addressed within this higher education context of today. And I think he related to the UNESCO framework of education, the 4 pillars of UNESCO pillars for education, which are you learning to know knowledge, to know the tools of knowing, to know how to learn, to know all this, and also the learning to do. Learning to do means learning and knowledge and getting certificates, and all this education is not just for the luxury of knowledge or memorizing, but for other purpose. And doing, action, means skills, means competencies, means you can do things. And that's one of the roles of education and universities, to help people acquire their
Prof, Berghout?
I think Prof is having internet connection problem, so we just wait for him to join back.
All right. Okay. So we shall just wait for the speaker to come back. In the meantime, just to be reminded that if you have any questions, can you just type in the chat box.
Prof, you back?
Okay, I think he's back.
Okay.
Back. Yeah, we miss you in the last probably 3 minutes. If you can just backtrack.
Okay. Let me continue from there. Now you hear me, Prof?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so I'm trying to say that we are trying to put our discussion of the integration of knowledge in a context, in a world context, in an Islamic context. And I was talking about the UNESCO when they talk about the 4 pillars of education or foundation of education, which are you learn to know, you learn to do, you learn to live with others, and you learn to be. And this last one, I would like to take this last one from there. I will start because learn to be, that's what makes the difference between educational systems. That's what makes the difference between models of education, systems of education. What do you want to be? What do you want to be means what do you want to become? What type, what model of a human? What model of a person? What model of a mind? What model of a soul? So here, where our Islamic worldview, where our Islamic education, where our Islamic approach to education comes in, because in the end, education is for personality building, for purposes, for certain purpose. So this framework of UNESCO, I think it's not a big issue it's good, and then we can see how we bring in our own model. So that's what I wanted to mention, just trying to complement what the Richter mentioned, and then moving from there to talk about integrated framework of Islamic education. Now, brothers and sisters, we always in the Islamic world, since the decline of the Ummah centuries ago, our culture, our mind, our education has developed one kind of, I cannot say a disease, or I cannot say, I can say a problem developed in our mind, in our culture, in our systems of education, and so on and so forth, for a long time now, because of many reasons, internal in the Islamic civilization, culture, and mind, and external because of colonization, globalization, secularization, and then the domination of the Western model of education. Then we got a problem of always we have that duality between theory and practice, theory and reality. We can have a lot of models, a lot of reform projects, a lot of ideas, but when it comes to the implementation, to the reality, to implementation, we got that problem. And I think that's one of the reasons why many projects of reform in the Ummah could not materialize. That's why we need really to address this issue in our mind, in our culture, in our way of doing and looking at things, so that we can bridge
theory and reality, because in theory you might have all things great, like these dogs here eating nicely, everybody look like a uniform, like soldiers. But when you come to the real world, you see things different. That's what happens also in our way of education. Sometimes we teach a lot of theory, worldview, Islamic values, maqasid, this and that. It comes to the real world, things are done differently or seen differently. So, brothers and sisters, I would like to talk about integration of knowledge in the present context. We know the context of the Ummah, we know the context of the heritage of Islam, we know what happened, but today the Islamic world is living in a context where the world is changing completely. In the way of thinking, in science, in technology, in artificial intelligence, in environment issues, in global issues, in so many things are happening just around our doors, including this pandemic, COVID-19, which created another post-pandemic reality. And now we are talking about many new factors which are affecting our education, our children. We can keep ourselves in our own places or where we are without or undermining the real world, but the real world will not leave us alone. The only way is we need to understand the reality, we need to understand what's happening, and we need to interact and address the issues. So now when I put all these things in front of you, like genetic engineering or artificial intelligence or knowledge society or social media or new norms of governance, management, big data, blockchain, a new mind, risk society, all this will affect our curriculum because we are producing and nurturing people for the society to live in a society of today, not the society of yesterday or before or this and that. So all these things now you will see them reflected in the curriculum because we have to nurture student, as you know, in education, in the 3 or 4 areas, like in the Bloom taxonomy. When you talk about the cognitive, you talk about the psychomotor, you talk about the affective domains and all this, and now you talk about many other things. So we need also to talk about integration of knowledge in this context, not only in the context of just Islamic society, but what's happening in the world today, because as an ummah, wasat, moderation ummah, khayru ummah, we are the best ummah. For what? For a purpose, for an objective, We are not just an ummah, we are ummah khairiyah, ummah wasatiyah, ummah, for what? For a very great purpose for humanity. So how do we elevate ourselves to that level of doing that mission which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do, if we are not up to the level of reality, up to the level of what's happening, up to the level of the Quran itself, the method of the Quran, the expectation of the Quran, the standards and criteria of the Quran. All these realities which are happening will affect our curriculum, how we see education, how we see the attributes of the graduate, how we see the learning outcomes, how we see everything need to reflect so that we create the people who are really needed for this time and for the future. So, brothers and sisters, this is one thing that I want you to understand. Now, why we are bringing, we need to understand, because we can talk about integration of knowledge years and days and months, and we can talk about it theoretically, but I think it's better to know why we are talking about it. For what purpose? What do we want? What is it that we are talking about integration in IIUM or in Malaysia or in the Islamic world? Or in the world? If you go to any Western university today, when you go and see people talking about integration of knowledge, they are aware why they are doing it and the philosophy behind it and the approaches that they use and for what purpose, for what objective, brothers and sisters. So we need also as Muslims know, as Prof. Malkawi mentioned, in the context of Islamization, why we are really talking about this concept of integration and link to Islamization. I would like just to add few points to what the Prof mentioned. Here, brothers and sisters, we are having a problem. You know, the Islamic mind, as late Professor Abdulhamid Abu Sulaiman talked about crisis in the Muslim mind, and also many reformists, many scholars talk about it. We really have to understand what is the problem of the Muslim mind. What is the problem of the Muslim personality? And some of the problems are we enter into a culture or a context of partialization, cannot see the bigger picture. We lost that sense of holistic mind, comprehensive mind, see the bigger picture, understand the bigger picture, and then go down to the real world. We are the inability, we are in isolation. We lost the dynamism of ijtihad and creativity to produce new knowledge, new ideas. We are in the fragmentation, segmentation. Even sometimes we apply the reductionist approach of the West in our own context, and we created silos within our own knowledge, within our own knowledge today. I tell you, to the extent that in some universities, without generalization, even the specialists of Islamic studies, for example, in Usul al-Din and comparative religion, will be focusing only on comparative religion and Usul al-Din, even within the family of the disciplines of Islamic studies itself, which is Usul al-Fiqh and Quran and Sunnah, and this, you will find silos also there, without generalization, of course. So if within the ilm itself, you cannot do the integration, you cannot do the linkages, you cannot do this tawasul and tadakhul of ulum, and you become silos, how about introducing new knowledge, integrated knowledge? So we are talking about integration of knowledge in a context where we wanted to really regain back the sense of holistic mind, holistic culture, holistic and interconnected, interdependent, related kind of approach. And when I say this, it's not only for the student, it's not only for the student who are learning from us, it's first and foremost for the lecturers who are teaching, whether Islamic science or teaching human science or social science or natural science. We need that integration mind, that integration culture, that integration approach, brothers and sisters. So it is very important to understand that this integration is not just go and link or mix two aspects of this science, that science. No. That one is just the fruit, the result. But inside the mind, inside the heart, inside the culture, inside the personality, we need many things to build and to train. That's why shortly I will be talking about the integrators of knowledge, those who will be integrating. And I think that was the last comment of Prof. Fathi. So how do we shift from the habit of fragmentation, segmentation, silos, our own discipline, and even in our own discipline, in the subjects of a discipline? Like in psychology, you have 15 or 16 specialization: cognitive, industrial, you have clinical, you have this. Under clinical, you have many of them. Then you specialize in those things, you specialize in sub-specialization. And then that's why in the West today, they are talking back about integration, because the specialization go into far into the partialization, dichotomy. It's on one hand, it's positive to go deep and understand and master, but on the other hand, you detach yourself from the rest. So integration comes. Now, let's see in our own context. But before that, I want to tell you, looking at the history of Islam, I think in the book of Prof. Fathi on integration, methodology of integration, he referred to almost all these type of things. But I want just to show you how Islamic mind and Islamic knowledge and Islamic tradition and scholarship is by nature integrated, is by nature unified, because of the worldview of Islam, because of the maqasid of Islam, because of the value system of Islam. The knowledge by itself is integrated. That's why I found all these terms in Arabic in the literatures of Islamic heritage, from fiqh to science to philosophy. Our ulama, in many ways, they used all these concepts, brothers and sisters. So look at them. I will not take long time with them, but look at them, and I just try to translate in English. All are there. So, brothers and sisters, it's very important to understand that Islam and Islamic society and Islamic scholarship by nature must be integrated. And this integration must integrate the various domains of knowledge which are in the Quran, because the Quran is already an integrated revealed knowledge which talks about the universe, the human, the society, the dunya, the akhirah, the seen, the unseen, the values, the knowledge, the ilm, talks about all these things. It's all, the text itself of the Quran is integrated. So we lost that integration in the historical development of the Ummah when we enter the decline because of that. That's why you will find many of our ulama were a great reflection of the integration of knowledge, not only theoretically, but practically, brothers and sisters. If I give you, for example of Imam Shafi'i in his book Al-Risala or Al-Umm, that man reflected in his book that he practiced multidisciplinary and transdisciplinary. He was a great alim of language, a great alim of hadith, a great alim of fiqh, a great alim of tafsir, a great alim of this, a great alim of this. And if you take, for example, Al-Ghazali, to the extent that in his book Al-Mustasfa, في أصول الفقه المستصفى, he brought logic and put it in the body and the structure of Usul al-Fiqh, which is one of the very original Islamic knowledge. And Al-Ghazali himself is a psychologist, is an ethical, is a philosopher, and he combined all this. So we have many examples to show. Ibn Khaldun, Shatibi, all, take them all, you will find that this integration happened nicely and produced the new ilm, new knowledge. So let me move forward here. Brothers and sisters, when we talk about integration, let me move here. I would like to show you here how I try to look at the Islamic education. And because you asked me to talk about integrated Islamic education framework. So I want you just to see
Prof. Berghout, we seem to have lost you again.
Do you hear me?
Now we can hear you, but there was about 30 seconds that we lost you.
Okay, I come back here. Thank you, Prof. I got this problem of the internet here. Okay, I just wanted you to follow me up. Many of you already know this because I am just doing all these introductions to reach one conclusion. In Islamic education is not in silo. It's related to Islam, to revealed knowledge, to the Quran, to Islam. And it is related to the Islamic worldview. And the Islamic worldview, there are 5 important things. The concept of God, where we talk about unity of God, where we talk about the Islamic worldview. Then we talk about man, how Islam looks at God, man, universe, life, and akhirah. I brought this concept of akhirah here because it's very important in Islamic epistemology, in Islamic knowledge. So brothers and sisters, within this frame, I just use this laser pen here. So here in the first round here, we are talking about the Islamic worldview, which combines all these things, and they are interlinked. You cannot separate them. And the knowledge of Islam needs to be related to this. So what we need, brothers and sisters, in our education, what is the purpose of our education, which is based on this Islamic worldview? The purpose of our education for istikhlaf. And this is a very central concept in Islamic education. We are not talking only about a man or a human or a citizen, but we are talking about Khalifa. And this will change all the concepts, the terms, the philosophies of all our philosophy of education and objectives of education. Then we do education for Umran. We don't do just education for the purpose of maybe social refinement or character refinement. No, we are here to build tamaddun. We are here to build Umran. We are here to build the civilization of Islam. So our education need to cope with the vision of Islam, which is we are educating a Khalifa who is here to worship God and to build civilization. And also we do education for balance and sustainability. So all these reductionist, positivistic, materialistic theories, which are now dominating in the Western model of knowledge, are all not fit within the framework of Islam or education of Islam. Our education is more comprehensive, more integrated, more deeper. Then we do education for desirable life. The Quran uses the concept of hayatun tayyiba. Why you are here in this world is to build desirable life, hayatun tayyiba, which is balanced. Why? Because you have akhirah, because you have another life which is much more bigger. So our education needs to teach this and to link our students, our researchers, our scholars to this worldview, to this framework, so that our education, our curriculum, our research, our products, our solutions to the world are all linked to the framework. Then we do education for falah and success in dunya and akhirah. It's not just for employability. It's not just for our dunya purpose, but there is a higher purpose in the Islamic education. So, brothers and sisters, moving forward now, by looking at this, means we are talking about educating a Khalifa or a human, which is the fruit of the whole process of education and process of knowledge, which is based on this understanding of the person we are educating, where we have the mind and intellect well-being, the soul and heart well-being, we have the nafs well-being, we have the social well-being, we have the body sense well-being, and any any reducing of these elements creating a problem with regard of what Islamic education is all about. So this is why, brothers and sisters, we need, and all this model or framework of Islamic education is guided by the Tawhidic worldview, the Islamic epistemology, the Islamic methodology, the Islamic socio-cultural context where reality matters and becomes important, and the Islamic educational model, which I was just mentioning. Now, I would like also to add another perspective of what does this Khalifa mean, brothers and sisters, so that you understand that Islamic education, a framework for Islamic education is very integrated, and in the core of that Islamic education framework is the human and this vicegerent. And this vicegerent, and why I'm mentioning this, because all our knowledge later on will be integrated within this framework. And any type of reductionism, any type of partialization will not give you the bigger picture of the Islamic knowledge or the integrated knowledge within the Islamic framework. So brothers and sisters, look at this. I just put it in this illustration. When we talk about this vicegerent, these are the aspects, and this all summarizes to you the Islamic epistemology, the Islamization of knowledge, the integration of knowledge, put in this illustration here, where we talk about this is the human and all these aspects. And that's our education to deal with. That's our knowledge to deal with. And also, these are the relation with Allah, self, nature, and others. And these are, in the core, we have the maqasid al-sharia. I didn't want to talk here about the maqasid al-Quran, which are more higher, and Prof. Fathi summarized them in these cardinal ethical values, which are Tawheed, Umran, and Tazkiyah. And I have another perspective on this, but this one in another, inshallah, talk. But here, these are the major kind of values which Islamic worldview teach. And our knowledge, our framework, need to reflect, brothers and sisters, starting from Iman, Amana, Takrim, honoring people, knowledge, Tazkiyah, Istiqamah, Tarbiyah, Taqwa, Ihsan, Adal, Hurriya, justice, Musawat, moderation. All this are going to guide our framework. And these are the things that need to be reflected when we teach our student, when we develop our curriculum, when we come up with our research, when we develop our solutions to the world. Whether I am in social science or in human science or in natural science or in religious sciences, this framework
Prof. Berghout, we seem to have lost you again. Okay, let's just wait for him to come back. Are you back, Prof? Prof, are you back?
I think Prof is disconnected again, but
Okay.
we shall wait for him.
Yeah, we shall just wait for him.
Assalamu alaikum, Prof.
Walaikum salam. Okay,
Yeah.
we've
Again, okay.
we've lost you
Okay.
for almost 2 minutes now.
Okay, Prof. Okay, I got this problem of the internet today here, but I am back. I used my handphone now. I'm just trying to reopen the. Just a second. Just a second, Prof. I'm really sorry. Can you see the screen, Prof?
No, not yet.
Okay, let me see. Maybe I need to get back to. Okay. Anyway, while I am working on the other, using the other hand to come back to the. Okay, I just continue. I think you have seen the bigger picture, which when I talk about this Islamic framework for education, and then we have the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the center, and then the values of Islam and the principles and the guidelines, so that when we integrate knowledge, when we produce knowledge, we always have this framework. And I believe that this framework needs to be taught to everybody, like a common knowledge. for the professors, for the doctors, for the teachers, for the student also, brothers and sisters. So if we can have that, and like it's a common training for all our scholars and researchers, then we will create that kind of link between all those who are specializing in different disciplines, because it's not necessary for those in natural science or in medical science or in architecture science to go and become specialists of Islamic studies in order to think Islamically or to know sorry, I need to take out the okay.
Back to the computer here. Sorry, Prof. Today I am in this trouble. But anyway, can you please reopen for me to share again? Yeah, okay. It's there. I'm really sorry for Prof. When 10 minutes left for my lecture, please remind me to do the conclusion.
Okay, all right. You have around about 10 minutes. Yes.
10 minutes. Okay, great. Let me move forward. So, brothers and sisters, so if you see in the screen there, that's the framework which I'm putting here. And now I move forward quickly. You know why we want integration of knowledge in the Islamic context or in the Ummah context? Because of the many reasons. One of them, because we want to regain back the holistic and integrated vision and approach. We want each and every lecturer, each and every student in this university and in the Ummah to start thinking civilizational approach, holistic approach. And we need to do trainings towards this. Number two, to regain back the sense of ijtihad and creativity, because integration of knowledge should enable us to learn the different knowledge, the different methods. For what purpose? To do ijtihad. In fiqh, in psychology, in sociology, in all areas. Because if we don't achieve this purpose, what is in that case, what is actually the impact of Islamic education or Islamic knowledge? The other thing which is very important here is to introduce a new integrated knowledge and science. In the end, I give you example. In the last 50 years, for example, under Islamic studies, I am from Islamic studies and Islamic civilization. And recently I become also in education. So can I ask this question to all of us here? Have we produced any new Islamic knowledge? Any new integrated knowledge? Other than usul al-fiqh and fiqh, Quran and Sunnah, fiqh and usul, and da'wah and the things which we know. Have we introduced any new knowledge? Because in the end, what is integrating knowledge? Means you create formulas and you mix knowledge that are needed to solve certain problems in reality, and in the end becomes knowledge. For example, our fiqh, fuqaha, for example, have let's say fiqh al-mu'amalat, have they integrated with Islamic economics, Islamic finance, and we created new discipline? Have we, for example, in da'wah? For example, da'wah is ilm, but da'wah is dealing with what? Da'wah is dealing with people, and these people, they have psychology, they have culture, they are living in a society. Have we created, for example, integrated knowledge like da'wah and psychology, da'wah and sociology, da'wah and governance, da'wah and management, da'wah and this and that? And this is an example you can talk also about in Islamic education area. What are the new sciences that we integrated, the new knowledge that we integrated? Have we integrated, for example, education, sustainability, and Islam? Have we created these types of knowledge? Because that's to me, there should be an end to the integration. The integration that we are talking about, like bringing this science together, and that's one level of this process of integration, but it should have an objective. The other thing is regain the competencies and malakat of problem solving. If our integration of knowledge will not help us to create the knowledge, the integrated research that can solve sustainable development issues, for example, poverty, environment issues, crimes issues, and so on and so forth. So what will be the impact of that knowledge? Also, the integration of knowledge process or a project need to nurture and produce integrators of knowledge, build the culture of integration. It's not just a matter of doing a paper where you integrate this to science and that's it. It's like a culture. And then I think moving forward here, let me, in the West now, brothers and sisters, when you look at the West, they are doing the integration of knowledge in their own context for their own purpose using the format which all of you know. The format of integration in the West, they are using now. You are in isolation in your own discipline, then you start connecting, then you have the linkages with the different science, then you enter into multidisciplinary, where you have few disciplines helping to address an issue, then you go to interdisciplinary, where things are more intensified in terms of method, in terms of curriculum, in terms of research, in terms of tools, then you go to transdisciplinary. In the transdisciplinary, that's what I am trying to propose to you today, that our integration of knowledge from an Islamic perspective, in fact, needs to start from transdisciplinary and move forward. Means from transdisciplinary, because Islam gives you already the integrated, revealed approach, epistemology, manhaj, and all this is all there. So we need to train our lecturers, to train our student, our postgraduate student for transdisciplinary, because what is transdisciplinary? Means you have an issue like sustainability or like decline of the ummah or like poverty. You cannot only solve it or address it by looking at it from fiqh perspective or from the usul ad-din perspective or psychology perspective or medical. You need to look at it from the different perspective, so that you need to create the people who can look at this and have the skills for that. So let me just move forward here. I don't want to take you to all this. I will give you the presentation later. You see many examples of this transdisciplinary in the Islamic context. So now I move forward. Now, in order for the integration of knowledge project in higher education, especially in Islamic societies, to succeed, we need to have and look at it as an ecosystem. An ecosystem. You cannot have the fruits of integration of knowledge in research, in society, in solutions, in curriculum, if it's not an ecosystem. You are addressing it in a partial manner, a little bit on helping in research, giving some grant. No, it's an ecosystem where you link all the things together from the bigger picture, worldview, epistemology, methodology, the value system. Then comes the ecosystem down there, starting from learning to adapt knowledge, to integrate.
Okay, we've lost
the services, the training and capacity building. We cannot just talk about integration and tell our lecturers to do integration without training them for that, or our postgraduate for that matter, and also the application. I move forward here so that I don't want also to take you to this little bit theoretical here. Now, these are some of the questions that I want each and every one of us to answer today. How much we have achieved in our university or in our Islamic universities in the Muslim world, how much we achieved of the capacities, the abilities, the competencies of integration, the approaches of integration. These questions are very relevant for us. really to focus and put the priority, bring back the dynamism of the Ummah. So perhaps to do this integration of knowledge, we need the competencies, we need the methodologies and applications, we need the attitudes and habits of the researchers themselves. You can do integration, but what are the attitudes, the habits, the values that govern you? Are you aware of the Islamic worldview or tradition? Now I'm talking here about all lectures, whether you are in natural science or social science or revealed knowledge. We need to develop the training suitable for each one of them and give them that common knowledge that will help them to see this integration and practice this integration, not as a specialist in all the disciplines, but knowing from other disciplines what is necessary to move forward. So brothers and sisters, this integrator of knowledge needs all this type of things. Let me move here. I will let you now. I'm proposing just the last thing to mention here, a kind of a framework to train people in the integration of knowledge, which I call it supple value-driven integration of knowledge. What does mean supple? Supple is a French word, but it's in English now. It's means flexibility, means resilience, means situational, means we develop integration of knowledge or train our professors, our researchers to be able and to be supple to deploy any type of integration based on the situation, like situational leadership. You act, if you are in social science or human science or in revealed knowledge or in any science, you know, we will try to train you to know what type of knowledge need to be combined together so that you can do your interdisciplinary research or your transdisciplinary research. So brothers and sisters, there are 7 dimensions. The malakat and competencies. What are the competencies that any of us needs to learn to be able to do the interdisciplinary or the multi or the trans or the integration? The values and ethics. The values and ethics. You are in medical science or you are in architecture or engineering, to do your transdisciplinary research or teaching or curriculum, you need a set of values that are related to the Islamic education, the Islamic worldview, so that your student can see that there is a difference between your teaching, your research, your knowledge, and the other model, like the Western model. The other one is the knowledge and products. As Prof. Dawood mentioned, that in the end, the need to be clear, the modalities and methods, and that's what Prof. Fathi, when he speak about the tools and the methods of integration, then the situation and contexts. Situational integration, there is no blueprint, but it's a formula you create it based on a context, and you decide what methods, what content, what approach is needed for you at that moment, for what objective, and then you move forward. Then the solutions and impacts. So brothers and sisters, we need really to go for more higher training of the integration of knowledge. I thank you for listening, and I stop at this point. Sorry, Prof, for all the disturbances of the internet and also maybe taking longer. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.
Walaikum salam. Thank you, Prof. Okay, I know that there are quite a number of questions, but we are running out of time. So maybe I can take 2 or 3 questions.
Go ahead,
can I
Prof.
open to those who are present? Anyone would like to forward your questions here or in the chat? If I can start with just asking.
Assalamualaikum.
Okay, Waalaikumsalam. Yes, please proceed.
Yes, this is Hasan. I have a very small question only, not too long. First of all, thank you very much, Prof. Ainul, for your very nice moderator, and also Prof. Berghout for the very valuable presentation. My question is just very simple one. This kind of institutional framework is published anywhere? Can we find it anywhere, published in book or articles or whatever? Can we refer to it? Because it's a very good one.
Prof. Ismail, my Ustad, thank you very much for the question. For your info, Prof. Ismail was my Ustad and my supervisor.
Don't say that.
I
feel shy, don't say that.
A great integrated man, mashallah. Prof. Ismail, I'm working on a book, inshallah, on the integration of knowledge in this context, and I hope, but I think I did not publish it in a specific paper in this context. These new ideas are just new also to myself when I start thinking about this integration of knowledge, and soon, inshallah, hopefully a book on this integration and Islamic education for the future will be, inshallah. I hope Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help to get it done.
Inshallah. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Forward
Hope to see the book soon, as soon as possible, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Salam. Any more? Any other question? If I can read just one from the chat, it's talking about how can we implement this in challenging minority countries like Sri Lanka.
Thank you, Prof, and thank you for the brother who asked the question. That's what I say in the seven dimension approach, or this dimensions of integration. The context and the situation where you live has bearings on your decision of what type of knowledge or what type of, because you are in a minority, many things are very different when you are in a majority, Muslim majority, and so on and so forth. I think this question to be answered by yourself, and our job is what to do is to provide knowledge like this, guidance like this, books, examples, samples of integration, and it's for you to decide how to deal with the situation there. That's why I said in the beginning that one of the purpose of integration of knowledge is to regain back the sense of holistic and dynamic ijtihad of the Muslim mind. If we do that, then it's up to the Muslim mind to do his own ijtihad in whatever context he is. So like the Chinese proverb says, teach me how to fish and not to give me a fish every day. So I teach you, I give you the tools. So in this model which I'm talking about, brothers and sisters, we need to sit down and because, as I said in the beginning, the Islamic integrated knowledge integrates the natural science, the social science and the human science, behavioral science, and the religious and arts and this philosophical science are integrated. So the specialist, for example, of medical science does not need to master other disciplines, but he needs to take certain exposure in the approaches, in the framework, in the values, in the things that will enable him to see that bigger picture, those tools, and he will apply them in his own area of research or teaching, and so on and so forth. I tell you, if we really develop this type of integrated trainings for all our people, then our postgraduate student, master and PhD, and then the undergraduate, we can see new generation of integration of knowledge. Because sometimes people think that integration means you have to learn a lot of knowledge and a lot of ilmu. No, it will all, we need, that's why I say this idea of malakat in English is competencies. We need to that's why I think just to sorry, Prof. Ainul, just to add one more minute here to tell you that one of the in my work in education there in your kulliyah, the outcome of that work was because the title of the work was on preparing lecturers of Islamic sciences in universities based on comprehensive malakat or competencies Islamic model. So I found after research and all this, that each one of us as Muslim scholars, Muslim researchers, specializing in various areas, we need to have certain competencies, certain malakat. If I follow Bloom taxonomy model, you remember the 3 aspects, but I use it from an Islamic perspective. I say that each and every one of us as a lecturer, whether you are in natural science or in sociology, psychology, anthropology, behavioral science, we need all to know the Islamic worldview. We need all, this is the common knowledge that each and everyone should know. The worldview, the general Islamic worldview, the maqasid al-sharia, the Islamic value system, the general Islamic methodologies and approaches to knowledge, to reality. We need all to know that there are sunan and patterns of God in the universe, in a human soul, in society, in life. We teach you that component, how you deal with this sunan of Allah. We need all, as lecturers, to have the knowledge of tafakkur, tadabbur, tabassur. You know, I try to create a model where for each one of us needs that basic foundational training that will enable you to get that minimum requirement to see things in this bigger picture. Then the rest is your specialization, your reality, your research. Thank you, Prof.
Okay. MashaAllah, subhanallah, your presentation are not just, it's not just valuable, but very motivating. In fact, we feel your zest. And if only we have more time, but there's another presentation after this. So inshallah, with the zest and motivation that you have given us, we look forward to future sharing sessions. More importantly, actually sessions where we can plan for action plans for the future, inshallah. So with that, thank you so much, Prof. Aziz Berghout, again, for your sharing and sharing of the motivation as well. So on behalf of the conference, we'd like to thank you, and inshallah we look forward to future sittings together. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I pass back to the main committee for the next session.
Thank you, Prof. Ainul and Prof. Aziz, for the session. Now we move on to the parallel session. Participant, please join the room that is assigned to you. There are 2 rooms, room 1 and room 2. Please find the correct room for your presentation. Thank you.